Hello, fellow fans. I'm Mark, and unite with me is my co-host, the Yappy Bryan. What up, Bryan?
Am I supposed to be offended by Yappy?
I didn't want to recycle. Okay, you know what? All right, take two. Here we go. Hello, fellow fans. I'm Mark, and unite with me is my co-host, the yodeling Bryan. What up, Bryan?
Yole-hee-hoo.
So much better. I don't care if I already used that. I'm going with it again. Yodeling. On the last episode, Bryan and I discussed recent news and quick topics on the first episode of UWF Light. That'll be a fun little program that Bryan and I do here and there, so check it out. Let us know what you think of UWF Light. On this week's episode, Bryan and I will be discussing the world of movie special effects with two special guest hosts, Mandy and Alex, and they know quite a bit about making such magic, so it's going to be a great time. Now, ready your spaceships and dinosaurs from outer space as United We Fan starts now.
The truth is, I am Iron Man.
I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
What is going on? What are you doing?
To infinity and beyond!
This is the way.
The flux capacitor.
Was Star Wars the one with the little wizard boy? Chewie, we're home.
Avengers!
Assemble.
Ah, chills. Literal chills.
Hello, fellow fans. Thank you all for uniting with us as we talk about all things fandom. Please give us a rate or review wherever you listen so we can unite with more fans out there. UWF is partnered up with This Diz Life family. Lots of wonderful podcasts and live shows with them. Bryan, let us know and let the listeners know what's coming up for them on Babu's and Earth's Mightiest Weirdos.
The day this is released, this episode of United We Fan, you can now watch all 7 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett. We are recording the day this United We Fan drops as well, the finale for Babu's Frickin' Podcast. We're talking about all things Book of Boba Fett / The Return of the Mandalorian and everything else that was this week. We are on Earth's Mightiest Weirdos every Monday night at 8:30. We're gearing up for Moon Knight. We're doing some MCU madness in March. It's going to be an absolute blast.
And I'm still waiting for my phone call invite or whatever invite y'all send for my Jar Jar Binks redemption story. So I'm there for that.
Book of Boba Fett got in the way there. Kenobi's coming sooner rather than later, but we will fit Jar Jar in very, very soon.
And Bryan, you did post a poll up there asking what or who people thought might have saved a certain little friend of ours in that show. I was very worried that you were going to execute Order 66 when I said Jar Jar. So thank you for not doing that.
Legitimate belly laugh. Not going to lie.
Ooh, spicy. All right. Earth's Mightiest Weirdos, always a fun time. Good for Marvel fans of every level, just like Babu's. So don't feel like you need to be an expert. Bryan is my guy in the chair for a reason. It's okay. He doesn't mind, is still my friend, even though I'm not quite as expert. And we're friends to everyone, no matter what your expert level is. So tune in, check it out, have fun with it. All right, now it's time for fan thank yous. I mean, we're always thankful for you all for listening and downloading and rating. We appreciate you all. But Robbie over at Gray Line Tours in New Orleans, I was just there recently and gave an amazing tour of New Orleans. The historic, the haunted, he can do it all. Very animated, great guy. Check him out, Robbie over at Gray Line Tours, New Orleans. In Mark and Bryan's World News, Peacemaker. That show is just blowing me away every week. I just love that show. I don't think there's been one bad episode, and that intro, whatever I'm doing, I stop and watch it. Sometimes I even hit rewind and watch it again. So Peacemaker is it's blowing me away still.
James Gunn has found himself in this spot where he can literally do anything he wants to. Literally anything. If it's the weirder, the better. And this show absolutely is that. But shout out to John Cena for what the range that he's showing in this show from an emotional standpoint and how hilarious he is. That was him playing the Motley Crue song on the piano this week. He's a very talented person. And that gag of him talking to the school kids was like, I would have watched a whole 45-minute episode of just his career day talk at school. So funny. I really am enjoying that show as well.
Love the show. I'm glad they showed the behind the scenes of the dance number intro, and his ability to ad lib, like, good on him. Great job. And you brought up Motley Crue.
But Vigilante's the star. Like, Vigilante is absolutely the star of that show. I needed to say that before we moved on. I'm sorry.
That's okay. And, it blew my mind when I found out who he was in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. So good on him for going against what we knew him for. So, but you brought up Motley Crue, and I'm going to bring up Pam and Tommy, a new Hulu series. And the first 3 episodes are out as of this recording, and I watched all 3 of them. It's an 8-episode limited series. I think we're going to call it limited series about a celebrity video that Pam and Tommy made. It even has Seth Rogen in it. I think the show is, I think it's good stuff. It is on the very adult side, so maybe leave. Definitely, there's no maybe. Leave the kids at home if you're going to watch it. But Pam and Tommy, Bryan, is that a show for you, or is that maybe not your bag?
Sebastian Stan, Nick Offerman, Seth Rogen. Like, I'm in. Like, I'm very, very interested. I don't know a ton about the whole story. Like, I obviously know a little bit about the story, but I don't know a ton. But I'm in on it. I'll watch it for sure. Like, but it'll have to be right after Peacemaker. The kids are kind of already in bed, and my wife's also not paying any attention to either of those shows. Let's leave it that way. But yeah, no, I'll get to it at some point.
I will say Seth Rogen is not Seth Rogen in that show. He's actually delivering a really good performance in there. I was blown away by him. So good on him.
Wait, we need before we move on, we need to do a Seth Rogen laugh off. I'll go first.
For everyone listening at home, this is why Bryan and I work so well together, because I was literally just about to say we haven't really gotten the Seth Rogen laugh in the show. So since I'm missing that, Bryan, can we get some Seth Rogen laughing? But you read my mind and beat me to it. So I don't think I can match you. Although, is it bad? Whenever I hear his laugh, the first thing I think of is Monsters versus Aliens.
Monsters versus Aliens, 100%. I taste ham.
Hi, I'm benzoate ostelazine bicarbonate, or you can call me Bob, whichever's easier.
All right, here I go. No, I got nothing. I don't even know where I was going. I think I was going Steely Dan there. All right, no, I got nothing. No, it's not there. Dang, Bryan, that's like spot on. I'm embarrassed. I bow to you, sir. I bend the knee to you for that. So coming up, we did talk about on Babu's freaking podcast, Book of Boba Fett is coming along, and a lot of fans are noticing that Boba Fett is kind of starting to fade out of his own series. And some fans out there are saying, oh yeah, it's because the producers listened to the fans and they said they wanted more Mandalorian. I need people to remember this show was filmed a long time ago before it was shown to us fans. So the storyline has already been done and filmed. So it wasn't that.
I had a discussion with a person who's fully convinced that they stopped the show and picked up everything they had done for season 3 of The Mandalorian and just inserted it. Like, that's what their firm belief was. And I was just like, one, I don't care. Like, the story they've been giving me, keep giving it to me. Like, I don't care if the show's called Book of Boba Fett. I don't care if the show's called Mrs. Doubtfire. I don't care. Just continue to give me what you're giving me. And I love it. I think we're going to come full circle with a certain villain who appeared at the end of episode 6 in episode 7, which is the season series finale. We don't know. But it's called the Book of Boba Fett for a reason, and I trust them on that.
Yeah, I've loved every episode. Bryan, we've talked about this. It's gotten me back into Star Wars. I'm having fun with it. The only thing that didn't really work for me was the whole Power Ranger biker gang.
Go Power Rangers.
Na, 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 na. I even like the last movie. I'm sad it was canceled. Anyways, Obi-Wan, that's coming up. Bryan, I think, was this another prediction from you that, I don't know, that it was going to premiere in May? It was too spicy of a time period for it not to, and I think we got a confirmation on when it's coming out. When is that, Bryan?
I mean, the Hollywood Reporter is reporting that it is simply premiering in May of 2020. Can you imagine if it premieres on May 11th instead of May 4th? Like, that would be hilarious. But no, like, it's going to come out on May the 4th. It made too much sense. They were able to finish it from that standpoint, or at least finish the first couple of episodes, and while it's premiering, continue to finish the other episodes. It makes too much sense to not come out on May the 4th. I've been calling it for multiple months now, and turns out I'm probably going to be right.
Yep. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to blow everything else away. I couldn't be more excited. It was in when we did our shows we're looking forward to most this year. It made my Rushmore for a reason. So I'm there for it. Ewan McGregor, bring it on. So coming up, a couple of days after this episode premieres, we have the Super Bowl. And if you ever want to hear Bryan and I talk some football, we do it. We get on the gridiron, we pad up, we do some loosening as we talk about our favorite football movies.
Loosening?
Yep, loosening up, do some stretching. At our age, we have to. And Bryan, I am still getting some pushback from listeners. Kara, shout out to you. Congratulations again. She is still very disappointed, as well as many others, that Remember the Titans did not make my Rushmore of football movies.
Fight the good fight, Kara. Keep it up.
No. Bryan, do you have a Super Bowl prediction? I mean, you don't have to go as far as give a score, but if you want to pick a winner, at least go for it.
I think I'm rooting for the Bengals. Like, I kind of live in a good spot now where it's no longer Tom Brady and it's no longer like anybody else. So like Von Miller either gets his second Super Bowl ring, or the team that's more fun to watch and doesn't make a ton of sense that they're there, the Bengals win. I'm going to go Rams 27, Bengals 19.
Ooh.
I don't know how you get to 19, but that's why it's going to be fun.
I think I'm going to go 24-13 Bengals.
Ooh. I don't think that defense is that good.
We'll see.
That'll be fun.
I don't know. It'll be fun. I hope it's exciting like the other playoff games. I think the scores we just gave are very boring. So I'm hoping it's exciting like the other playoff games.
I figured out how we get to 19. Okay, so then they score. They are at 19. They go for 2 to try to get to 21 when it's 24 to it would have been 24-21, but they missed the 2 points, so then it's 24-19, and then the Rams get a field goal to basically seal it. That would be exciting.
I mean, I can see them doing like a touchdown, the extra point, and then just living off field goals. That'll get you there, right? Like 10, 13, 16. Yeah, 19. That'll get you there. Stay in school, kids. Math.
Plus, if Evan McPherson wins the Super Bowl MVP, that guy's a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. And then, that halftime show. I'm so excited for this halftime show. So, Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, I'm there. So, the Pro Bowl is today, the day of our recording.
Who?
Yeah, I forgot about it. ESPN reminded me. Bryan, do you care?
No, a peek behind the curtain. The game's happening, and we are talking to each other this exact second. So, nope, no interest in the Pro Bowl.
It's in Vegas this year, right?
Yes, it is not. It is not in our neighborhood.
Yeah, it's not even in Orlando. So this year, Bryan and I sadly were not invited to the media event for it. Maybe next year, or wherever again it's Orlando, we'll be invited to the media event. Go NFC. Woo!
Is it NFC versus AFC? There used to be like team captains, but I know they didn't even set the rosters until like 2 days ago because they didn't know who was coming still.
Shocker.
It is NFC versus AFC. It's halftime, currently 28-21 in favor of the AFC.
The NBA All-Star and the MLB All-Star games, I still think are amazing. MLS is a lot of fun. Actually, you know what?
The best All-Star game is the NHL. And that just happened this weekend.
I was just gonna say,
hockey's the best.
I think out of the big five, NFL is number 5.
Yes.
Number four, I'm gonna go MLS, but I love that it's the MLS All Stars versus usually like a Premier League or a bigger squad. But I think it's fun. But I'm still gonna go MLS 4. Number 3.
I think the format changed for MLS. I think now it's going forward going to be MLS All Stars versus Liga MX All Stars from Mexico.
Yes, even better. Bryan, our inside guy in soccer or football, wherever our friends are listening. Number 3, I'm going to go the NBA All-Star Game just because for me, it's kind of lost a little bit of the fun. I do love the partnering up of the NBA and the WNBA. I think the shoot-around games are a lot of fun. Number 2, I'm going to go NHL, and then my number 1 will be MLB.
MLB used to be more exciting for me back when home field advantage in the World Series was on the line. Now the game means a little bit less, and I understand from both sides. For me, it's hockey by quite a bit.
Yeah.
And pro football at the end. The MLS one, it's jumping up there for me. But again, I spend a lot of my time within the world of MLS now, so it's a little bit different than it used to be for me. But MLS is getting up there. But for me, it's hockey, especially when you roll in the skills competition. NBA gets really fun too. But the skills competition for hockey is still a lot of fun too.
And for everyone listening at home, Bryan, is your MLS team Real Salt Lake?
I mean, no.
Ooh,
no.
Ooh, hot topic.
It would be the Colorado Rapids. That's who. I mean, I didn't really pay that much attention to MLS, but I'm an Orlando City guy now. So
yeah, you are. That's right, friends. Bryan's no longer a free agent. He's an Orlando City Lion.
Rain or shine.
Rain or shine. And then let's see, getting back into this is gonna be an awful segue. I'm gonna call it at least. Talking about rain or shine. The Robert Pattinson's the Batman. Because in the preview there's sunshine and there's rain in the preview. And oh man, no, couldn't make that work. All right. They are giving us so much footage from the movie. Michael Giacchino's even giving us tracks from it. Me being the big movie score fan I am. I didn't mean to go Dr. Seuss there. I am. I haven't listened to any of the tracks because I want to enjoy them with the movie for the first time. And then I have also not watched any of the footage because I want to be surprised and not kind of like when you see too much in a preview. So I'm keeping it. I'm hiding from it as much as possible until the actual movie comes out. Bryan, have you spoiled it?
We're still 4 weeks away from release. I don't know what this strategy is. I don't know if they're trying to build up anticipation. Spider-Man didn't really give us a whole lot until a couple weeks before. And that movie's 20 million short of being the biggest movie in United States domestic box office history. So I don't know why they feel the need to build up this anticipation. I think they changed their minds a little bit. I think it was going to be rated R, and now it is not rated R anymore.
I think
upset.
We'll get that release. I'm calling it now. They'll do the PG-13 release, wait about a month and a half, 2 months, then release a little bit longer rated R version. I'm calling it.
Yeah, maybe. I'm still upset with Little Caesars. I bought a bat-shaped Little Caesars thing,
Yeah.
and I wanted my poster, and they said they didn't have the posters, and I want my poster.
Yeah, but was your bat calzone or whatever yummy at least?
Yeah, it's Little Caesars. It was fine. Pizza's pizza, baby. Pizza.
It's all about the crazy bread. We all know that. I also want to bring up a factual opinion statement that Robert Pattinson said that all of the Batman movies are good and enjoyable. And he is correct. Even Batman and Robin. No. What? Wow, there was so much happening there.
Hit 2 buttons there.
You were so fired up. I still stand by it. I enjoy Batman and Robin. It is a fun movie. As a comic book fan, you are going to hate that movie, and I totally get it. But Barbara Pennyworth. Ooh, man, that one hurts to even say out loud. But I I love the Batmobile in that movie. I think there's good parts to it. We get a glimpse of the Nightwing outfit on Robin in that movie. I enjoy that movie. I actually think I watch more now Batman and Robin more than Batman Forever. But
really, I don't like either. I don't like as heard on Are They Christmas Films or Not episodes. Like Batman Forever did not age well for me. Batman and Robin is just straight up awful. Batman Forever for me, I actually really don't mind Batman Forever, even though Jim Carrey is the Riddler.
Yeah. My Rushmore is Batman 89, Batman Returns, The Dark Knight.
Lego Batman.
Oh, yes.
That is in my
Bryan,
floor.
You got me out of hot water there.
I'm really afraid of where that was headed.
I don't want to say it, so we're just going to leave it with the Lego Batman movie is my number 4.
Batman Begins is hands down better than Batman and Robin. You weren't going to put Batman and Robin in there, were you?
I was doing my Rushmore. I'm not saying yes or no to your question. Just to clarify, what I am saying is when it comes to a Rushmore, I asked myself, what is my top 4 enjoyed movies? If you want to
panic, but then I handled it.
If you want to ask me my top 4 Batman movies that I think are the best, then I'm going to tell you, this is still going to be a hot take, Itch. The Dark Knight, Batman Returns, the Lego Batman movie, and then the animated Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. My Batman
that went
Rushmore,
to theaters. Don't come at me, people. That went to theaters.
That's a good one. I like it. My Mount Rushmore is going to be The Dark Knight, Batman Begins, Batman 89, and the Lego Batman movie.
Good choice. Good choice. Good soup.
That wasn't even the random Rushmore.
I know. It's coming later, friends. Alex and Mandy wanted in on that, so you're going to have to wait and be patient. So, you know what? Let's. You had me a hot sort of take earlier. Let's get to our hot takes. Let's do it. Bryan, would you like to go first? Would you like the honors, or would you like me to go first?
Go ahead.
All right. My hot take for this week. Bryan, play it again. This is a super hot take.
Feeling hot.
When this show was running at Magic Kingdom, it was the best show on property that was not a parade or fireworks. I am talking about The Muppets Present Great Moments in American History. And then I have a second hot take. Bryan, play
Feeling hot.
For everyone, just a reminder, as Bryan needed reminding, Carousel of Progress is a ride, not a show. Thank you.
Okay. I mean, Carousel of Progress technically moves. I believe the cast members at Carousel of Progress are trained on ride technology. Mm-hmm. So therefore, I suppose that we will go with it. Okay. Great moments in history with the Muppets was a lot of fun. I really liked it. I would love to see it make a comeback. I would much rather stay and watch that than wander inside.
All right. So for everyone listening, I accidentally took some wind and steam out of Bryan's sails, and he also cooled off my pot for this episode. I don't know what I'm doing with these metaphors and analogies. I did give Bryan this little hot take in advance, not thinking it would be that big of a deal. And Bryan's response is, I threw some stuff across the room.
Well, Carousel of Progress, man. Like, Carousel of Progress is the best one. If we're not going to define it as a show, then my question to you is Muppets Great Moments in History with the Muppets better than the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular? Because that is a show.
But I said Magic Kingdom.
Oh,
that's how I clarified it.
Freaking A.
Magic Kingdom.
Okay, fine.
I did.
All right.
Don't
no, you did.
You
did say Magic
Trying
Kingdom.
To poke that bear?
I'm sorry. You did say
I
Magic
did.
Kingdom.
I would no. It would not
That would have been
be the
hilarious.
best show on property. There's Lion King would have a big problem with that. Nemo coming back soon would have a big problem with that. Indiana Jones would absolutely have a big problem with that.
I love.
I guess Brian, if you really want to get me thinking, asking me if Muppet Vision 3D, which one's better, Muppet Vision 3D or the Muppets Present Great Moments in American History, that one would hurt the soul. But I'm gonna go Muppet Vision 3D.
3D.
Mainly because of Waldorf and Statler. Wait, what are you guys doing here? We entered a contest. Yeah, we lost. Oh. Love it every time.
Look at that kid in the Goofy mask. Sorry, lady. My hot
All right,
take.
Brian.
Feeling hot,
Yep.
hot, hot.
My hot take is, Mark, I am finally doing it. I am sitting down. Well, I mean, on multiple occasions, I am watching New Girl from start to finish. My hot take is that Winston Bishop is the best character on New Girl.
Feeling hot, hot, hot.
Nick Miller is hilarious. Schmidt, obviously hilarious. But Winston Bishop, just those, he's got the gems that just make everything so friggin' funny. I know you love Nick Miller, so I mean, I get it.
Yeah, Nick Miller. I just love Nick Miller. Winston, I could argue for Winston for second. Definitely 3. Sorry, Jess. Jess, you're number 4.
Jess is 4.
Yeah,
Jess is 5.
Jess is 4.
Like Cece's better than Jess too. Cece's funny, man.
Wow. I feel like we need to do a New Girl episode.
Kara, start getting ready.
I know. I was gonna say, fans, listeners out there, let us know if you want to get on some. Who's that girl? It's United We Fan New Girl. I'm not even mad about that hot take. I feel like some might be the Schmidt lovers out there might have a slight issue with that parkour, but yeah, I don't hate it. I don't hate it, as Mark would say.
I think Winston's hilarious. Like, that is my biggest takeaway. And like, obviously Schmidt has the best one-liners. Nick has the best situations, but Winston just comes in, comes out. I just watched the one where Nick is pranking Schmidt and doing everything he can, and Winston has no idea to find a middle ground on a prank. Like, he's either not enough or it's way too much, and it's so funny. It's so funny.
I will say Winston made the series finale, the last scene, irritating. I didn't, his little last prank. I don't know why it bugs me.
I'm still in season 2, so I got some time.
Okay. Oh, you haven't even gotten to the Badger. Okay. Get ready. There's exciting things coming your way. Hot take times. Those were it.
Feeling hot, hot, hot.
All right, fans. Now it's time for the moment you've all been waiting for. Let's hear it for Alex and Mandy. They are here for us, our special guest of the show.
Hello. Hi, thanks for having us.
Such a rowdy live audience there. So we are talking to Mandy and Alex. First off, thank you for being here on United We Fan. We appreciate you both making time for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us. Seriously.
This is also our first international guest. So
we're originally from the States, but we're just living in Montreal right now for work. We're in the winter and it's freezing.
I was gonna say Kara from Canada would like a word.
Oh gosh, man! Wait, wow! We really are reaching out to the Great White North there, Kara. I'm so sorry if you're listening out there. For everyone listening at home, that is the same Kara who is upset that I don't get the appeal of the animated recent Grinch movie. And what else is she mad at me about? There's a lot. And Remember the Titans. That's right. Yeah. It's not a top 4 football movie. But anyways, Kara, we appreciate you. I don't know what that's about, but I'm sorry for being controversial with you. Anyways, I'm going to get back on here. So, Mandy, Alex, thank you. being on here. Talk to us about the world of visual effects. For our listeners out there, they want to know your origin story. How did you get into that world? Was it school? Was it always a passion? You saw the original King Kong movie and you were like, I want to do that. I want to make the gorilla animate. Or did you just happen to meet someone and they were like, you could really be in this world? So tell us your origin story.
Yeah, I think I'll have Alex started out because his career is more far along than myself. He's been in the industry for almost over a decade. It is over a decade. So if you want to go ahead.
Yeah. So I've been doing production in like a bunch of different like roles for like 16, 17 years now. So it's been a long time.
Has it been that long?
It's been a long time. Yeah. So
it's been 84 years.
Thanks. I don't know how far back you want me to go. So I was born in 1990.
No.
No. So,
years of the hourglass. So are the
Yeah. No, it was actually funny. My dad actually got me into it. I used to do this martial art as a kid, and my dad wanted to make like instructional videos of the stuff that I was doing. So he got like a little editing system and a little handy cam, and so I started learning how to edit. Originally it was back in the day when they had like Avid. I mean, they still have Avid, but I'd like learned Avid and all that kind of stuff as well. And then I got into a high school called G-Star down in West Palm Beach in South Florida, where I'm from. And I ended up getting an internship at a company called Comar, and I worked at the local TV station. And then I did gaffing, which is like setting up the lights and doing all the electrical work. And then I used to do on-stage camera operations. So I'd have the big camera on my shoulder when I was like 15, 16 on the like stage when like, you know, Dave Matthews and John Mayer were around. So I was on
Palm
stage.
Beach Arena.
Yeah, it was the big
yeah.
big amphitheater that would do there. So I'd be there and they'd feed the jumbotrons behind me.
Would you just spam the crowd for like your mom and make sure she ends up on the jumbotron every so often?
Yeah, no, my parents never went to anything I was doing.
Too loud for that. No.
Yeah. I do have to ask, Alex, you said John Mayer and Dave Matthews. Are you big fans of theirs, or they were just like the first names that popped in your mind? It's okay.
They're just the big ones that I went to because it was the very first time where like I actually was on set.
I was on set for Corn and things like that. But those two stick out because
we got variety here, definitely.
Yeah. It was all the festivals and stuff. So just basically whenever there was a show, they would call us.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just like one day I was doing a side job where I was selling stereos at Bose. It was my only like job that wasn't related to production. And my parents were like, well, you should just go like do something with this. Like go do this. Go do production. Either you got to do production or you're just going to be stuck here in Florida doing like nothing. And so I was just like, okay, well, I'm going to just, I'm like 19, just graduated out of high school. And my parents were like, well, you can just go to LA. And so like, I don't really know, like I've never lived on my own. So I was just like, cool, that sounds really simple. So I get my car and I drove over there.
That's easy.
Why not?
Yeah. I just
Suitcase in the dream.
Yeah. And so I went over there and I got an apartment just by driving along the street, and I found something in Burbank because I saw that like, oh, that's where Disney and all them are. So I was just like, I'll live in Burbank. That sounds like the spot. So I went there and I got there. I was like, Mom, there's no Wi-Fi. There's nothing. And she was like, yeah, that's how bills work. You need to figure out how this works. So like I was out there and I started doing freelance. Like I went on like, it was actually Craigslist for like production stuff. So like you go there and they had Mandy.com at the time was
not affiliation with me, but
yeah, there's a website.
That's a good plug, Alex. Good plug.
Yeah, it was so you go on there and you just sign up for work that just like you could just grab for extra stuff. So I ended up picking up a ton of like on set, like I would do gaffing, I would do grip, which those are just picking up the gear and moving it or setting up lights. And then I would do like director of photography stuff. So I would use the cameras and do all that stuff as well. But then at the time, then there was an opportunity where Digital Domain in Florida Digital Domains decided to open a branch out in Florida. And originally my goal in my career was I wanted to be an editor. So I knew Avid, I knew Premiere, I knew how to do Pro Tools and all that kind of stuff as well. So I knew how to do all that stuff because I learned it in school. And so I was like, well, I'm sure that's what they do at Digital Domain, right? That sounds fine. Like I'm pretty sure they use Avid there. So I managed to call a friend of mine in Florida who owns G-Star, and he was like, hey, I got some friends at this new visual effects studio that's opening up. And I was like, sure, I can figure out how to do that. So he got me an interview, and I like go in there, and the person who interviewed me ended up being one of the coordinators that got hired from LA, who just recognized me. And she was like, "Oh, I didn't know you did post." And I was like, "I don't, but I can if you want me to." And she was like, "Well, I'm sure you'll figure it out. Here's a job." So it was sort of just like,
right.
Why not? Okay.
yeah, it was just super lucky. And so I went there, and I put on my resume, I knew a software called Nuke. And that was the thing that we used for compositing. Nuke is like, it's like $14,000 every 3 months or a year at the time to use this piece of software, but Digital Domain made it. And the discipline that I know how to do is called compositing. So it's the act of actually taking multiple layers of like what they shot on set, and then actually taking what we might be rendering out of the computer and putting them together to make sure they actually look right. Because the things that come out of like 3D when they're actually rendering the robots and stuff like that, it looks like trash usually. And then it comes to us, and then we're the ones that have to make it actually work together.
So is the best way in my head when we're talking about compositing is the most real world example something like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, kind of where they're putting the cartoons into the real world action, like to that extent a little bit.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's actually it's so like I worked on Transformers. Transformers would be like they actually shot the bridge in Chicago, and then I was the person who would take the robot that they were building, and I would actually put it in the scene and make sure it actually like looked correct. That's what I would do. I'd never done that in my life. I had no idea what it was. So they managed to. We were lucky because in Florida they were giving out tax incentives to basically say like if you hire Floridians, you get the tax incentives. So Digital Domain was putting us through like a 3-month hardcore training course on how to do all this.
Awesome too. That's
they still haven't done that. So I started my career there, and then somebody told me, I was like, I really want to start learning how to get better at comp. And then after I started learning that, I was like, I wish I could make the workflow better. So I taught myself how to program. So I taught myself like Python and C, that kind of stuff. And then I went into Digital Domain Florida, went down, and then I worked at Blue Sky, which Blue Sky made Ice Age. So they made that one. So they actually shut down recently, which is kind of sad. But
by Disney.
Yeah, Disney bought them and shut them down. But yeah, I did that, and then I worked in commercials in New York City. I lived in New York City. I worked in cars in Detroit, and so I did that. It was all in comp and programming, and now we do Marvel and all the stuff. We have all the posters around.
So you do like small independent movies now.
Independent
Marvel. Yeah.
Nothing no one's ever heard of before.
Yeah. I used to do theme park stuff in Orlando too. It was a whole thing. Yeah.
Well, Mandy, that's how we met, the theme park life.
I know. That's been a long time. I mean, I think the last time I saw you, we were in the toy box together, I think, before you went to Pandora. I think was that your next move? I can't remember. It's been so long, but
there was a lot. I thought I moved around a lot, and then I met Alex, and
I know.
Maybe I don't have that much experience as I thought.
No,
so
not true. Not true. The same, just different industry.
Man, I mean that's a good lead up. I mean, you started off as a toy at Toy Story Midway Mania, and now you're here.
I know it's crazy. That's just a small piece of like my origin story. I'll try to make it quick, but I actually grew up in Indiana, and I didn't have the opportunity of like going to a high school. It was more of a charter school like Alex, where they actually they taught him grip. They taught him film editing. They taught like outside of him trying to do it himself. They had actual classes outside of your core classes. So you go to biology and then you would go to like film editing. So I didn't have that opportunity. I went to a public school, and anything that I wanted to do art related, my parents, thankfully, I was fortunate enough to have parents that were very encouraging and wanting me to pursue what I wanted to do in life. And they would like drive almost 45 minutes to an hour to like baton or dance class or something like that. So when I started talking about wanting to work in movies, my original like inkling or goal for myself that I wanted to try to pursue is feature animation. And so my parents were like, well, research it. Like, you know, what colleges do you need to go to? Where do we need to take you? Things of that nature. And when I was a freshman in high school, I found the Disney College program. And it was way too early for me to do that. I finished high school, but while I was in high school, my parents actually bought a house in Florida. So I could move to Florida. My sister could then, she's younger than me by 3 years, then she could do the same thing because she wanted to go through the arts as well. And I did the Disney College program in 2012 as a lifeguard, which is the farthest thing from VFX as well. But then I went through all the ropes at Disney. I went from lifeguarding to attractions where I met you, Mark, and I worked at Hollywood Studios. Then I was a coordinator at Magic Kingdom for a while, at Pirates of the Caribbean, Jungle Cruise, and a small stint at the Haunted Mansion. And then I was done doing that, and I drove safari trucks at Kilimanjaro for a while, Animal Kingdom. And then I became a flight attendant, which is then not anything in the VFX industry.
I just love y'all's stories because you're just showing people where you start doesn't have to be where you end up.
Absolutely.
And I love that. Like you can decide one day, I'm gonna move to Burbank. Let's do it. Let's find out what this whole Wi-Fi thing is. Let's do it.
The Wi-Fi.
Exactly. The Wi-Fi. I need it. The Wi-Fi. I was a flight attendant, and somewhere in the mix of going from Disney to flight attendant is where that urge to go back to VFX and film for me kind of happened. And it wasn't that I wasn't happy with what I was doing. It was just I didn't feel fulfilled in something that I had always envisioned for myself. And so I finished school at UCF. And then I told Alex, by this time we had been together for a few years now, and I told him that, I want to try to do it. I want to make the leap. And he was like, okay. And so I ended up becoming a PA in Georgia for a little bit. And that's kind of where I learned how production works. Because like I said, I didn't get the tee off point that he had. So I was completely in the dark. I mean, hospitality isn't the farthest thing from movies, but it doesn't kind of push you. So the hands-on learning that I had in Georgia was great. But then 3 weeks after I started, the pandemic happened. So it kind of, I know. So I've actually not ever worked in a studio physically. I've done it all from working from home.
Which I told her a bunch of times. I was like, she's missing out because I've worked in a lot of actually in the studios, and it's a whole culture that she doesn't even.
But that doesn't mean that my experience has been less than. It's still incredible.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of sort of sad because I wish that there's a certain magic around that she's kind of missing. That I hope that eventually they open them back up.
I was gonna say, do you think it's ever going to go back? I feel like this might be cheaper at this point.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. It does allow for a lot of opportunity for people that might not be able to make that move of moving to a new state or something in that regard. But I mean, it just depends until it's safe, I guess. But then
we can talk about that later. Just tell them about Suicide.
So then after being a PA, then I was a coordinator for a show, specifically a show. It was a show called Pandora on the WB, which was pretty cool, from a VFX house, Crafty Apes in Atlanta. They were awesome. And then from that show, then I became a department coordinator, which is different, which is a department coordinator for the CG animation department. So that was anything that required CG animation. And from there, now I'm in Montreal doing the same thing as a CG animation coordinator for the anim department.
And then Spider-Man happened.
We'll talk about that later.
And then that little movie called Spider-Man happened. Right. Yeah. So here on United We Fan, we like to do our rankings and Rushmores. Do you all have your top 4 visual effects movies that, whether it was when you were maybe not working on them or while you're working on them, 4 movies that you were just like, oh my God, those visual effects, every time I watch them, I just enjoy them so much. Do you have a top 4 visual effects movie?
Oh, for sure. I'll go first because my list of visual effects movies are not any that I worked on. Because I've only been in the industry for 3 years. So they're the main reasons why. The first, I'll do the my most precious one at the very end. Probably Avatar. Avatar was huge when I was in high school.
Big movie,
yeah. And I mean, I just remember so many kids are like, I can't believe like all of it. Mocap, they don't know what a mocap suit is then, but like none of it was actual people, really. It was, so them trying to explain that, and it was mind blowing, and then them seeing it in IMAX and things of that nature. But then what's my next one? This is really difficult.
I always cheat and write my 4 down. Luckily, I get the homework assignment earlier. So
you get the homework assignment earlier. Next one would have to be probably I won't save my precious for last. Jurassic Park. That one has special effects and visual effects. But I love that one from when I was a little kid. And that was like a huge landmark in terms of CG animation, anything visual effects related, from ILM, which is crazy. Probably my next one would then be Life of Pi.
Ooh, okay.
Really?
Well, yeah, because
no. Don't let any of us question your like top 4. That just caught me off guard.
I've just never heard you say that.
I
I worked on that. Now you're saying that now. All of a sudden you're saying
breaking news, everyone. Mandy has Life Up High in her top 4. Breaking news for Alex, especially.
Exactly. He's like, wait, this is news to me.
I've worked on so many projects and she's never mentioned any of them. But out of all the ones I've worked on, it's Life of Pi.
Well, it's Mount Rushmore VFX. Like that has to be there.
United We Fan, bringing partnerships together with communication. You're welcome.
I just feel like I've been lied to for years.
All right, Mandy. 4th one. What do you got for a 4th?
Endgame. Avengers Endgame.
Good choice. Alex, what you got for us?
Well, I know that the one that got me to want to go out to like actual LA was, I think, the new Star Trek. The new Star Trek with its visual effects, I thought were fantastic.
I love that answer
Abrams
so much.
Reboot.
Yeah, J.J. Abrams with all the lens flares and everything. I loved it.
Lens flare. Here you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
And then probably the next 3 would all be Dune. I think Dune is
you gotta give more than just Dune as the next 3. Come
100%. Well, Dune was so special because the way that they did it was so, they didn't use blue and green screens. They used dust screens.
Well,
so
don't cop out. You gotta give at least 2 more movies at your top 4.
Get him, Mandy. Get him, Mandy.
You got me for Life of Pi. I mean, he can't.
I don't know. I guess
you need us to buy you some time, Alex.
Well, so Alien and 2001 probably, but those are special effects. But I would say those 2 probably, yeah. But Dune is the winner for me because DNEG did it, and I think DNEG is the best right now, in my opinion,
in the industry.
And we're talking Dune 2021, not 1983.
Yeah. Just the good one.
Just clarify,
Bryan. You know what? For those boxy special effects for the original Dune, I'm sure we're something for their time.
If it wasn't from the 1983 version, we wouldn't have the one.
The way that they did, I think the reason why Dune looked so good was because of the like I said, they don't use green and blue screens, so it was just so good the way they did it, though, and it was so special.
I'm gonna make a note of that. And we're gonna come back to that. Bryan, you got your top 4.
So while we're talking about the Dune not using the green or blue screens, like where Alex, kind of going off of what you were just talking about, before I give my top 4, I don't know the difference between special effects and visual effects. Where would you put something like the volume that they're using at Lucasfilm for The Mandalorian? Like, would that be considered a special effect, or would that be considered a visual effects because it's touched up afterwards? Are you familiar with the volume, I guess, while I spring that on you?
So basically, like, well,
are you talking about
their screen, their LED screens.
Oh, yeah, their stagecraft stuff.
Yeah,
it's ILM stagecraft. I think it's cool. I mean, it doesn't. The only reason it's so good is because you don't have to worry about D-spill, which is why Dune looks so good.
Okay,
is because like.
Can you explain D-spill for those listening?
So like, if you have the light that's hitting
Mandy.
a green screen or a blue screen,
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm asking.
I'm telling them.
Thank you, Life of Pi. Here we go.
No, so like if you have a light and it's hitting, so you have an actor in front of a screen, right? if that screen is blue or green, it reflects off that and it'll give you, the actor, a bluish tinge or a greenish tinge. And the reason why I think Dune looks so good was because what they did was they didn't ever use blue or green screen for, I think, the desert scenes. They had used just brown dust color. So when the light hit it and it would bounce off, it would actually reflect them the actual true desert color. And so it caused all the effects to look absolutely spectacular, absolutely amazing. So that's what I think.
It kind of gives it that aesthetic that was new to it, Dune. I guess I didn't realize that's what it was.
Well, so like when you apply something, so we call them plates. So when you get something that's shot on the camera, we receive it in comp or anything. We receive them referred to as plates. When you try your best to not modify the plate, you want it to leave it alone. And if you do visual effects correctly, nobody should ever know you were there. So you'd actually be surprised. There's tons of movies that you probably have no idea that like we did a ton of work on. Like for example, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, like she's on a motorcycle, that's all CG, but you wouldn't know it. There's a lot of stuff where there's tons of stuff like that. And so like when it came to Dune, when they were going through, and if they shot it on blue or green screen, we'd have to despill and change the plate to get all that blue or green out. And that doesn't look good. So the reason why I think it looks so great with a lot of their like transparencies and the way the CG sits in there is because they actually went about that and they shot it very specifically on set.
That's awesome.
Now, Alex, I have two questions for you. That first one is, for my Oscar pull pick'em that I do every year, are you saying that you should give you think Dune's going to win Best Visual Effects Oscar, just if someone's voting in their Oscar pool, maybe? Okay. And then second question, actually,
100%.
Okay. Second question actually kind of goes to a little bit what you were saying. And this is one of those questions I alluded to you all earlier in our pre-show chat. In 2019, the Oscar winner for Best Visual Effects was First Man. It won over such films as Avengers: Infinity War, Ready Player One, Solo, and Christopher Robin. As a fan, I personally thought Ready Player One was just visually stunning and beautiful. I loved everything about it. But me being the nerd and reading what people thought. Again? The legendary Steven Spielberg.
Oh, right, of course.
That's why, Bryan, for everyone listening at home, just a reminder, we did do a Steven Spielberg episode because I just need everyone to know how much I love that man. But so The First Man, I read a couple articles where they believed it won the visual effects Oscars because the visual effects were so subtle. It took on more realistic looking topics to make them unnoticeable on just how they looked on the film, as opposed to like Infinity War, which, you had the large armies, you had out of world creatures and all that. But First Man took real life rockets, flame effects, men in space, and had to make it look like effects weren't done. So it had to make it look, it had that challenge of doing it kind of like what you were saying. And I was just wondering, is it like as a artist, is it harder maybe to take on topics like the Apollo missions as opposed to Spider-Man Far From Home, or are they both equally as challenging?
No, they're not. There was different. This Spider-Man was a unique monster, but that was a different. You can probably ask us about that one separately, but I mean, I've worked on some projects. I haven't seen this free. I don't watch very many movies, to be honest. I work
so that's
on them.
Something you may not know. For like a lot of, and I didn't know this till I got
a lot of VFX artists don't watch it.
They don't watch their movies.
Yeah, because it's frustrating. It's infuriating.
Okay.
They like to do their own work. I work with so many incredible artists.
It's not that.
That's what they say to me. They don't.
Yeah, no, I don't watch it because it's like So, like, for example, so I'll answer your question. So first off, yes, it's much harder, and you could spend a lot longer trying to make effects and things exist that should look natural, and you're basically trying to trick the human brain into thinking that that's real. When you're doing, when you're doing Spider-Man jumping out of buildings, you don't really need to care as much. You just got to make it look cool and fun. So it's a little different.
Is it the fantastical element?
I don't know. I mean, I've noticed like when shows I've worked on, they'll be like, yeah, that looks really cool. And I'm like, this doesn't look at all right. But Sure, that's cool. Let's crank it up, make it red, and make it glow, and make it blow up. In this way.
Turn it up to 11 and just go with it.
Yeah, which is actually what like a lot of people like. You know, I mean, people don't go to movies to be in realities most of the time. So
most of the time. But yeah, Bryan, you got your Rushmore ready to go for us? A visual effects flicks?
I was just looking at your list. First Man won over Infinity War, Christopher Robin. Like the next year, 1917, which good film. Like I enjoyed it, but I bet the visual effects in that one, making it a continuous one shot, were challenging at certain times. Anyway, regardless, my 4. I'm just gonna go in chronological order. Mandy nailed it. Jurassic Park. Like,
yep, that's on mine.
These very well could be special effects, visual effects. The next one, I think, is gonna be a lot of special effects as well. Is Titanic. That movie had a massive imprint on me throughout my life. I was obsessed with the Titanic for a really long time. The recreation of the ship, everything they did there. I'm not going Star Wars A New Hope. I'm going with Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, because that's what really introduced me to the world of Star Wars and my obsession that I have with it today. George Lucas was a visionary from that standpoint. And
which that actually lost to The Matrix, Bryan. Fun fact.
Yeah, I know. And then I'm going to just, again, like Mandy made me feel so much better of including Avengers Endgame. I'm going with more what shaped my love for films in general. I'm going with the 2000, the original X-Men film. I think just that kind of ushered in the new era of comic book films. And that ushered the new era of comic book
moment for me right there.
And that's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah. I had Jurassic Park on mine as well. The Fellowship of the Ring, watching that opening sequence just blew my mind. I almost said A New Hope because it inspired me to use my little like Star Wars models as special effects when I made my little like dorky kid movies. But Bryan, Episode 1 actually was on my list as well. I just remember watching the Battle of Naboo, blew me away. My last minute switcheroo, I'm putting Superman the movie on there. I just remember seeing Christopher Reeve fly around. I know it was subtle times. And actually, Alex, you brought up blue screen. I've seen definitely some glimpses of like some blue light coming off Superman. I feel like it didn't help him being a powder blue like suit, but those are my like 4 right there. But we've alluded to it, you know, Spider-Man, No Way Home.
Never heard of it.
I mean, had I known Life of Pi was going to be a big topic, I would have brought up that movie. But Spider-Man, No Way Home. I thought the movie was beautiful. The mirror dimension scene. Every time I go back and watch that part, even just the web coming out and just seeing little details like that movie. Bryan, how many times I think I'm at like 3-4 times. I don't care about admitting that. I think I'm at like 4 times for the movie. I always notice something fun and different about it. I guess
I noticed you didn't ask me. I appreciate that.
What are you at? Like 6?
8.
Woo!
Bro, I worked on it. I didn't see it that many times.
AMC A-list for the win, baby. I don't have to pay for it.
I guess like for that movie, what were the challenges that maybe surprised you? And then I know we've seen some behind the scenes footages or pictures where the actors don't actually have their suits on. They, I guess they're the motion capture suits. Is that correct? And then maybe wrong. Okay, this is why we have experts, people here. This is why we have experts. So they have those. they have those fun suits on with the lines and the squares and the circles, and you all are probably like nails on the chalkboard right now. But is that a challenging topic to take on when you assist with the suits on them since they're not wearing them?
Well, I mean, I think you can just say what we worked on because we didn't work on it. But I guess that we can kind of tell you the bidding because I think that's just
what all did you all work on when it came to Spider-Man No Way Home?
I can just
so the sequences that we worked on was Ned's grandma's house.
Yeah. Oh, that little scene.
That
Okay.
scene,
Where,
that
you
scene
know,
had
the
no
two-
effect on the film
No
whatsoever.
effect
okay.
whatsoever. The
No.
two extra Spider-Men coming in there and explaining who they are to each other.
I know. Oh, was Ned's
spoilers,
grandma
sorry.
real? Was that a CGI character? Like,
No, she was real. She was.
Oh,
she
okay.
was real. And then the final sequence that we worked on, we also did a lot of like 2-dimensional comp stuff in between the movie.
We did the final fight scene. That's
the
all.
final,
Yeah.
the final
We
fight
did
scene with.
we did the final fight scene
the
and
goblin
and the dude coming in the house.
So yeah, so
Make it
let's just we're gonna sit back. What did you do
Yeah.
when it came to the Peter portals in the house? Like I
wait.
listened to this for the next
Do they call them
45
Peter
hours.
portals?
That's what I called them.
Bryan is the
Peter.
The Peter portals.
That's where.
Yeah.
That sounds so awkward. I'm
Because
uncomfortable.
Peter comes out, I thought they were Doctor Strange.
Well, the portals,
No.
they're like Peter and Peter come through the portals. It's called the Peter portals. Leave me alone.
We're getting sidetracked here, but I'm gonna like totally bring up Peter portals again in future times. But as for Ned's grandma's house, when the Doctor Strange portals opened, tell us about that process. What all you experienced working on that? Fun challenges.
So normally when I work at Cinesite, I'm a developer. I do code. But for this project they brought in like all of people that had like super senior like comp experience. So that's where like I came in. So they transferred me over to do this on these bigger scenes. So like what I did on this scene was a lot of the actual like we would receive the renders out of 3D. So 3D being the actual like CG. Like CG, so we refer to that as 3D usually. So it comes out of 3D or lighting, and then comp would receive it. And then what I would do is actually go through and place them and build the comp and actually make sure that like the lighting effects on the room, making sure that it actually sits in there correctly. It sounds a lot simpler than it actually is. It's a lot more like technical and mathematic
back and forth
and
a little bit between departments as well. Because
Yeah,
like when you
like
pass
comp-
something through, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's finished in those departments. Once it reaches compositing, he might find something that needs extra work.
So like the comp basically is the end of the pipe.
Yeah.
So the shot goes through the entire pipe. So it could go through the shot is that's the big thing about visual effects is that we didn't do the movie. Like we didn't.
No.
It's just the fact of like it's a machine and you're one of the steps along the way.
Yeah.
The problem is that like you have modeling, there's a specific modeling team, there's a lighting team, texture team that does all this stuff, and then there's a tracking and layout team, and then there's also rotomation where they go through and they actually
creature effects,
track all your stuff. And then once it all comes out of all of that, it goes to a compositor. And so compositors typically are the last line of defense before it gets to the client. So compers are under the most stress usually. And I think Mandy didn't know that until this project. Because like
the more time the previous upstream departments take, the more time it eats into comp's delivery time.
Because the deadline's always the same.
Right.
Yeah, deadline stays and the comper's time gets smaller and smaller. So like me, I've always been a compositor. So like if I see something upstream that I know is going to not work, I can usually flag it. Right. The other thing too is that as a compositor, you have to understand a lot about how like, okay, this is definitely not going to work coming out of 3D. It's too late. We can't render it again, which just happened a lot with Spider-Man where it was like, it came out wrong, potentially out of the render because of like a system failure or something kind of broke. And we don't have time to kick it back to a render because a render could take, a weekend to get it out.
A whole weekend to get it.
A whole weekend, yeah.
Before it even gets
so
to
then,
comp.
So then 3D, so then comp, I would have to be responsible for figuring out like, okay, cool. I got to just get, either try to re-render it myself or try to figure out ways to rebuild passes or do a bunch of stuff.
Problem solving.
A lot of stuff like that. So it's really, really technical. So in those shots, it was a lot of like placing the portals. I think it had a lot to do with the sparks around the outside. I know specifically we had a ton of notes with the sparks. It was me and 2 other compers that did that scene. And then it was too late for us to kick it back out of render. So we ended up getting almost all of that kicked back to us.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that scene.
Yep. I assisted the animation department. Obviously, the Toby and Andrew were on cables. So those were not my department. That has to be painted out and fixed. And
that's on me.
On him. But like once like the flipping and the jumping through the portals and the flinging of the webs, those are all the animation department as well, and creature effects, because creature effects helped a lot with like any muscle deformation, because that is something that you pick up on as a human. If it doesn't look right, you just know it doesn't look right. And so that was, I don't want to say an uphill battle, but that was something that we had to make sure that it would look right, because we would get notes back about that as well, that something isn't right with the pecs or the arm or the thighs. But that was some of the things that we worked on for that sequence.
Was that scene, being in the smaller environment, more of a challenge than, say, the wide open battle? Like, does the setting scale, does that really impact anything, or you're still, all the little details are still like, it doesn't matter, you still have to get all the little details right?
It's based on Z depth, so meaning that like you have, like if you look at a picture, right, you have X, Y. So, you know, anything, because that's the thing, is that when we look at pictures, like it's not like probably what most people look at, right? When I look at a picture, I don't look at it as like, oh, this is a person in a picture. It's more of just a grid of pixel values. And so like we look at it as X, Y, and then the Z is going forward and backward in depth. The thing that makes a scene more complex is how much is in the way on the way back there. In that room, you have like your actual you have your desks, you have your bookcases that were kind of in the way.
A living room.
And then sometimes if you have a portal that needs to sit in front of this, but behind this, but then also intersecting with this, then that's a lot of comp. So that's me actually going through and slicing it up into individual chunks to do that. So that's what makes it more complex. But the size of the scene doesn't really matter.
I think that would be taken in from their side on set mostly. That would be something that they would have
it's all
to
roto.
Okay.
Set is useless. They're
don't say that.
It's true. The people on set are useless. They sit there and they're like, we're going to do this for VFX. And then they give it to us and we're like, none of this is useful. So then we go throw it out and we do it ourselves anyway.
To all of our friends listening who work on sets, please don't stop listening to our show. We appreciate you.
Alex,
just watch.
I'm not talking about no. Just doing the lighting and stuff. I'm talking about the VFX.
No.
The VFX soups are useless.
No.
So
there's just a whole bunch of hot takes happening right now.
Coming in the future of United We Fan is just an episode just on this scene. But what type of decision making, Alex, did you have? Like, for example, Tobey Maguire, like, and I've got another follow-up question regarding that, but Tobey Maguire comes through the portal and in the background is something like the Empire State Building. Is that given to you where, hey, we need this to be, he's coming from a certain part, or do you kind of get to make that decision of what the inside of that portal look like, or is everything given to you and you have very little, for lack of a better term, creative, I don't know, I think you understand what I'm asking.
No, I get it. Yeah. Most of the time, no, that's just handed over.
Okay.
But there's times like in a lot of other projects, the reason why they do that is because it has to do with continuity.
Right.
So you could have the same angle, the same shot, but like further down the scene, and that could be done by a different comper. So the reason why they do this is they make sure it's uniform across like all of us, so we're all the same. On smaller projects, we have a lot more liberty to take whatever we want. It's not because we can't do it. There's a lot of scenes, like even in Transformers, where I've just been like, a building goes here, that sounds cool. But like there's a lot of that kind of stuff that happens. But like when it came to that scene, Marvel's very, very, very picky. Mm-hmm. So a lot of that stuff is kind of just like, we're deciding to put this here and put this there, and then, you know, just make sure it's standard across all of them.
They also, as a vendor, they give you those elements.
Yeah.
Yeah. They say this is what's going to be back there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that do you guys say in the industry, in the business, which do you prefer? Just whatever. So those in your line of work, you guys don't always watch everything that you've done. I said I've seen Spider-Man No Way Home 8 times now. You said you haven't seen it that much. It sounds like you saw it at least one time.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
There's sort of that sort of culture around what we do.
Yeah.
That's sort of missing with COVID. I'll tell you the first reason why I don't watch most of the movies I work on is because so we work in frames. So I'm not sure. I just, in case anybody doesn't know what's listening, we have 24 frames in a second. That hasn't changed. Sometimes we have 48, which that was with The Hobbit, but that's not, we don't do that anymore. I tried once, it didn't work. So now we all do 24. Mm-hmm. So what we could get is I could get a series of shots. And if you add up all of those shots, I might only be working on maybe like 60 seconds worth of footage for the entire movie for 6 months. That might be it.
Okay.
They could be the most exciting 60 seconds, but like, you know, they go by really quick. So for me, I've been staring at, like, for example, that bedroom scene. I could be staring at that for like 3 months and hate every moment of it. And the moment it comes up, I can't stand the movie anymore. Like, the whole movie could be really good, and the moment I see that scene, I'm just like, I don't want to be here anymore.
So looking at the film as a fan, like, A, did you enjoy what you weren't a part of, and B, were you bummed that the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield surprise was completely ruined for you?
No, it was it was cool. Yeah, I mean, it's fun to see, like, you know, a movie working out, and I like knowing that people like it. I think I was more excited about Endgame, I think, because the scene that I saw that I really, really liked, which I didn't get to work on, but I worked on the movie, was the one where they're all coming out of the portals to go fight Thanos the last time. I thought that would have been really cool to work on. But yeah, no, it was really exciting. The reason why I saw it, though, is that we do have this sort of like cool VFX culture that we used to have before COVID, where every Friday we would go and we'd have big parties in the studio to show what we've done for the week. And the whole studio would go in there and they'd beer drinks and you'd hang out and get to know and socialize. And then whenever a movie came out, so like Digital Domain Florida, when we did Transformers, was the very first film that we did in Florida. They threw a huge party at the local theater, and they had red carpets. We got all dressed up. We got to go see it. We watched the movie. There was a whole bar and a whole cool thing. And we just don't do that anymore, which sucks because of COVID. So that was, I think we saw Spider-Man because there was a party that was going on that they were just like, hey, we're just going to give you guys free screenings. You can go see it when you get the chance, which I think is kind of what Mandy's missing out on, which we're trying to get back to.
That was the first movie I saw in theaters that I actually worked on.
And she cried.
And the rest
I
of
cried
that
too. Thank you, Mandy. I really cried too, so I get it.
I think we all cried.
Like when he jumped through that portal, I knew, like, and that, like he says, like when you work on something, you know, sometimes it depends on your experience in working on that movie. And at the end of the day, it's a job, so it's different for everybody. But this was my first one. So when I knew it was coming up, and
I didn't expect it to be a big thing.
I remember the shot code. Like, I remember everything that went into it. And like, I get on the edge of my seat and I know what's about to happen because I know the theater's going to erupt. Like, I just know it's going to happen.
And I've been sitting through tons of these screenings of other projects, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, why do you think anybody's going to care about this? It's whatever.
He was
and then they sit there and they start cheering and screaming, and Mandy starts crying. I'm like, what is happening? What's going on here? It's a movie.
Lost it,
Meanwhile, Bryan and I are over there holding each other, crying our eyes out.
Well, I mean, the funny thing is that Mandy sits there and I get assigned these shots, and I open them up and I just start working on them. She's like,
I think all of them.
And then I checked and I'm like,
when are you going to notice this?
Is that not a big deal to you? And I was like, isn't that Spider-Man? She's like, that's the old one. I was like, oh, he looks okay. And I keep going.
Oh, jeez.
I open up another one. They're like, and it was Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield.
And then who's the other dude?
And Tobey Maguire.
The Tobey Maguire dude pops up. And I'm like, okay, this is the other shot. And she's like,
yeah,
I'm sitting there. I'm like, isn't this the same guy? I don't know.
Oh my god!
No, the suit has longer legs. Like it's more blue.
He also came in wearing a jacket and
jeans. That's true. He was dressed like a youth pastor. That's right.
Yeah, the youth pastor look.
So he turned around, but I mean, I think that also comes from a different. Like, I'm still fairly new to this whole industry, and so like I've definitely got big eyes on everything, and everything is just literally the coolest thing that I've ever been able to experience. So I think that's why well,
that was a big thing that I have, is that like with me, I've worked on a lot of movies now at this point, so like the first few are like huge, like, oh my god, and you see your name go by in the credits and you're just like, this is so cool. And then it was like this like thing where you like, I'll be honest, like when I first saw Transformers and I saw my shot go by and I was like, wow, that went by like that. And there goes like 6 months of my life. And then like I looked up, I was like, hey, this is really cool though. Like, and then you see your name and like I cried because I was like, I actually like tried for many years to actually like work on something. Yeah. And then
what was your shot for Transformers?
I worked on the very first one I worked on was Transformers 3 Dark of the Moon. My very first project I've ever worked on, period, was Thor, the very first one. But I only did the part where what's his face pops in.
He doesn't even.
The dude on the horse at the beginning. You know how Thor goes off and
Odin?
Odin, that guy. Yeah. So when he bursts in, we worked on
the king of everything. Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay.
That guy. But no, on Transformers, it was the part where I think it was Optimus takes, I think, the axe and puts it in the back of the bad guy, Megatron's head, and rips it off. So that was the very first. I worked
Mark's
on
freaking out over here, like he doesn't even know these names.
Yeah, I worked
I'm
on
like,
that.
I'm enjoying this. I'm thoroughly enjoying this. And I mean, Alex, you've worked on all that, but I guess, like, have you ever worked on Bryan, a Random Rushmore?
The game where everything's made up and the points don't matter.
You stole my thunder. I've got so many questions for Alex. Like, let's get this over with.
I know, Bryan. I want us to let's get it over with. That's the excitement you have for this Random Rushmore. All right, fine. Random Rushmore for everyone playing at home is for Bryan to actually think about his top 4 things that have nothing to do with anything we're talking about. It can catch them off guard, just like Mandy liking the movie Life of Pi. So here is the Random Rushmore for this episode. Valentine's Day is coming up. Bryan, I can't wait to get my candy from you. I'm looking forward to some Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, but whatever you got for me, I'll take. Give me your top 4 for Valentine's Day. Comic book couples.
If you had pronounced it Reese's, I would not have given you any candy for the rest of your life. So thank you for pronouncing it Reese's.
I saw your little rant about Reese's Pieces.
It's awful. Top 4 comic book couples.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to go with Carol Danvers and James Rhodes. Does that be in movies or in comic books? Or can it be a mix of the two?
You know what? We'll just so we can get this ball rolling, since you have apparently a lot of questions, we'll do both. Whatever you want. Comic book movie or comic book books.
Okay. Mary Jane and Peter Parker, Mary Jane Watson and Peter Parker. I'll go with Selena Kyle and Bruce Wayne. And I will go with Lois and Clark Kent.
I've got Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. Always been team them, not Mary Jane. Lois and Clark, I'm there for it all the time. Reed Richards and Sue Storm. And then for me, Peter Parker and Felicia Hardy, the Black Cat. I'm there for it. So, Mandy, Alex, do you have some comic book, movie, or comic book Mount Rushmore couples?
Character couples?
Couples? Character couples? I like Froze on that.
Probably Tony Stark and
Pepper Potts?
Yeah, Pepper Potts. I
got
that relationship so much. And then you're probably going to have to tell me her name as well, because I only know her as Natalie Portman. Because that's Alex's biggest woman crush in the entire world.
Jane Foster.
Yeah, Jane Foster and Thor. And then I don't know. Do you have any?
He's just gonna go Thor and Jane Foster, and then Anakin and Padme. This is all he's gonna do.
I feel like Alex is just gonna do Jane Foster and Thor, Dune, and
Dune. Yeah, that's your Dune.
Another Thor and Dune, just Dune.
And Life of Pi. Life of Pi is my other cousin.
You're tired.
All right. Well, there's our randomness Rushmore for this episode.
Mark, you and I both royally screwed up that neither one of us had Peggy Carter and Steve Rogers, so I'm going to amend my list and put them in.
Okay. Hang on. So that was because the original one was comic book romances, and I didn't feel good about putting Sharon Carter and Steve. Had your curveball there. Okay, you're right. I'm getting rid of Peter Parker and Felicia Hardy, and I'm putting Steve and Peggy on there.
Okay. Alex.
Anyways.
You mentioned you'd worked on Avengers Endgame. That is in my top 3 favorite films of all time. What were you involved in with Avengers Endgame?
I didn't do any shots on it. I was just a developer. So I did support for Pipeline. So
Okay.
I did obviously when we do work, we use a lot of computers and servers. So I wear a lot of hats. I'm weird. So I can do stuff on set. I can do the actual compositing artistic stuff, and then I also do development and server management, and I can also build a studio. I can actually build the studio itself to actually do it. So in that one, I was working at Cinesite, and I was doing support for making sure that like the system itself that we use to track stuff and make sure it actually is getting done, like I would support that as well. A lot of the actual act of like the actual support systems, like the way that they communicate with each other and the way that assets are handed off back and forth, like a lot of that is what I would also help as well. So like the difference is it's weird. Like I can do, like when I was on Spider-Man, I was working on specific sequences and shots because honestly, Mandy was working on the show, and she was like, "Hey, I really want to work on a project with you," and I was like, "Okay, I'll go do that." It's weird because I have a really good relationship with Cinesight, so they're just kind of like, "Hey, what do you want to do today?" And I just tell them like, "Hey, I want to go do this," and then they'll let me go do it. But then with that, Mandy wasn't working yet in the industry, so I was doing in-game, and like if we screw something up, we take down the whole studio. So you have to really know what you're doing when you're doing the coding stuff. So like if you're working on a shot, sure, you're making like you can see actual like the thing on the screen. But if we're doing the development and we screw up a line of code, we could take it down and we can miss a deadline. So I do both those things. A bunch of stuff.
Mark, go ahead. I have 2 questions before I'm done asking questions for them, but
my random question, and Alex, feel free to say you have no comment on it or whatnot. And Mandy, of course, chime in with whatever thoughts. One hot topic movie for me is, wow, it came out in 2019, just like The First Man. A certain movie that came out, it was billed as live action. I, being the person who is not in that world, didn't see it as live action, thought it was another form of updated animation, is the 2019 mega hit reimagining of The Lion King. You all, in your most educated world, would you consider that... I guess, would you consider animated? I'm going to read a quote from Jon Favreau, and I'm just because I want to. He goes, Favreau stopped short at calling the Lion King remake as an animated film. To say it's animated, I think, is misleading as far as what the expectations might be. He also said, and it also changes the way you sit and watch it. But I think calling it live action is also not appropriate either. So what exactly, from experts, is 2019's The Lion King to you all?
It's animated.
That's it. Bryan, the end of the show is right there. Thank you, Alex. That's all we needed to hear. Mandy, Life of Pi, good luck with that. Thank you all for tuning in. You heard it right here.
No, it's I mean, I have a lot of friends that worked on Lion King. They were
First,
the
it's
studio,
a gorgeous movie, I think.
The studio that did it is MPC, the moving picture company. They're very, very good.
Okay.
They have a little bit of history, but they're good. I mean, it's the same. It goes through the same pipeline as what we would do in FA. So FA is feature animation. FA is more like, so when we say feature animation FA, that's more like Pixar.
Right.
So I would say that Lion King looks more like what Lightyear is going to look like, but like Lightyear looks a little bit more
so
cartoony.
Excited for that one though.
Lightyear's more
I'm
cartoony.
so excited for that one.
Yeah, but like if you look at Lightyear and you look at, for example, there's one cut in the trailer where it's actually got, that's honestly the only Pixar movie I've ever really, really excited about. That one is insane. Wall-E and Up.
Bryan, wait, Alex, did you just say you liked Wall-E?
Wall-E, yeah.
Yeah, he loves Wall-E.
Yeah.
I do.
Bryan, did you hear that?
I don't like Wall-E. Leave me alone. Let's move on.
Bryan, Wall-E, my top 4 Pixar. Someone else likes it. Thank you, Alex. Go ahead.
But no, like Lightyear, if you look at, there's a part in this where they're showing the swamp, and that's like straight out of Star Wars.
Yes. Okay. So it does look like Dagobah. Like I'm not crazy. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's straight out of Star Wars. But if you look at it, the lighting, it has still film grain in it. It's got lighting and lens effects. Like it's definitely a straight up, like it's got a lot of VFX live action influence, because we actually look at it differently. There's FA, which is like Pixar stuff, and then there's VFX, which is the live action stuff where you're trying to put something into like
someone's in a
plate.
mocap or something to that effect.
Yeah, and so like with this one, it looks like they're doing both, and that's how I kind of look at Lion King, is that they're doing FA, but they're injecting a lot of VFX tricks to make it look exceptionally good.
Because if it wasn't for VFX, I don't think that movie would be as visually appealing.
What, Lion King or Lightyear?
Both. I mean, I don't want to diminish what they did on set. I mean, there's definitely actors, and I mean, Like,
did they shoot that on set?
well, with like they did the similar thing with like Gollum, where they put like the stuff on his face like they would a mocap suit
What,
to get
in
the
Lion
movement.
King?
Yes, they did.
Oh yeah,
Did they?
On
Yeah, they
some
filmed
of
it
them.
similar
I
to
think
what they
we're
did with Jungle Book too. Favreau did.
I know Jungle Book. Yeah. Okay.
But they didn't use any plates though. They just used the mocap.
They didn't use any plates. No, they had. The
Yeah, so
mocap,
it's anim. Yeah, it's anim. Yeah, it's animation.
It would.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I just thank you. I was really worried, Alex. I was going to get the answer of, I don't have an opinion. I was like, no, Alex, I need you to tell me that it's animated. So thank you.
No, I mean
Thank
it's
you.
different. Like it's more of like a career and a job for me. It's still fun, but I mean, at the end of the day, we get paid to make pictures. It's kind of a joke of a job, so it's kind of fun to do that. I mean, not a joke. It's not a joke in the sense like not a joke, as in it's not a real job, but it's more like we get to go to work to play around, and that's really what we do. And that's the fun thing. It's sort of just a joke. Yeah. It's just you go in there, you're like, hey man, what did you do today? I made a picture. Cool. Sweet.
There you go.
Good job.
Bryan,
Alex,
we're getting close there on time, so let's get you. Let's empty your tank here.
Alex, your line of work changed my life when it came to that scene in Ned's grandma's house. So I really appreciate what you did. I love that scene.
Thank you for not calling it the Peter Portals again, Bryan.
It's what it's called. It's the Peter Portals.
I do think you should understand one thing. I was only one person in a huge group of people that did that. There were over 40 or 50 people that touched that shot. Well over
so
that.
many versions.
Management is doing it too. There's tons of people that do that. And the thing that we do in VFX, which is sort of like a unspoken rule, is that every time you sit through any movie that's got heavy visual effects, always pay the respects and sitting through the credits, because almost every one of those names are the ones who touch those shots.
Oh yeah.
So it's
Mandy,
very important.
that's how I saw your name.
Oh, thank you. That's my first one. Well, like first one in a theater. That was pretty cool.
Of course, I didn't get any credit, but whatever.
You came in. That's so because this happens sometimes. People actually they'll get credit on the film, but then like they might come into the show or movie late before, like after production has sent the names of everyone who's worked on it.
I started working after credits were locked.
Yeah.
Credits were locked.
So, but he definitely worked on it for sure. It's on his IMDb, but it's just not listed on the movie.
Just add it to the list. It's fine.
I mean, Marvel's done you guys favors of getting people to watch the credits. So so I have two more questions, and thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate this. Has been everything I could have dreamed this interview was and more. But so we take a very heavy visual effects film, something like Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War. What percentage, and I mean I know that this may be really hard to answer, but I've got a kind of a follow up to this. What percentage of that film would you say has been touched up by a VFX team? Is it literally 100%?
That's a hard question.
Probably in the upper 80s at least. Probably, I'd say.
And then, because there's a lot of things that you don't. But there's a lot of things that a lot of people don't take into consideration that may need VFX. Like someone has a blemish on their face that might need VFX. So if you're taking those things into consideration too, it would add up to a lot. But I mean,
it's a lot of set extensions too.
Well,
continuity.
But there's a lot into it. I'm just saying that if you want to kind of include all that, then it would be the whole movie.
And that kind of leads me to my next question of what movie would people consider has next to no VFX because it takes place in what's the name of that Denzel movie where it was all took place in one house and all that kind of stuff. But like what's a film out there that is heavy on VFX that people wouldn't consider having been a heavy VFX film?
Black Mass. Black Mass is a huge one. Black Mass was shot in the summer.
Really?
The entire movie is in the winter, and that's what I worked on. Yeah. Black Mass is entirely shot during the summer, and it was entirely in the winter, which sucks because you have to go through, and we would have to go through in every single outdoor shot. We'd have to go through and add either snow on the ground. We'd have to kill all the trees, which is a huge thing because then you have the trees moving. You also have to add breath. So that 99% of that movie is all CG because of that. Not CG, like the characters aren't CG, but that's an example of compositing. Mm-hmm. So like none of that would be going through like 3D. That would all be doing like where I would take like a picture of dead trees and I'd have to actually like put it in the background, put depth of field on it and defocus it, make it actually look like it was supposed to be there. And so like, for example, like you guys, I don't know if you knew that was shot during the summer, but that's like something where if I did my job right, you would have never known.
Right.
Yeah,
and
I have seen that film. I had no clue. That's really like even adding breath and stuff. That's really cool.
The equal.
You're talking about Black Mass with Johnny Depp, and the 2015 one, right? Okay, yeah.
And then
that was a good movie.
What was another one? This is on Zero too.
Recent ones?
Equalizer. The Equalizer has a ton. Period pieces, a ton of those. Right. But those are all set extensions.
They're set extensions. So like a good chunk of the back in the day when they would like do like all the set extensions practically on set and they'd paint everything. And, you know, I once wanted to do that and realized there's not really a job for that anymore. So now I'm here. But there's a lot of that in movies now to where, because it's cheaper to kind of do it digitally for the amount of frames that you have in the film versus making this entire set and extend it out for just a camera sweep. And it just...
I don't think it's not cheaper. It's because it's
not
you can change it.
You can change it. There's more flexibility with that as well.
Flexibility, yeah. If you shoot it on set and you realize after you process it that it didn't work, then you're kind of out of luck. But if you do it in comp, you can fix it.
Well, Mandy, Alex, I know I learned a lot. Not just about visual effects and the world and what goes into it, and also how much Mandy likes Life of Pi and Bryan's term for Doctor Strange's portals, but this was eye-opening.
They were Ned's portals. They weren't Doctor Strange's portals.
That's true.
Oh, gosh, here we go. You know what? To me, they'll always be Alex portals from now on. So thank you all. It was a treat beyond words. Mandy, thank you. I'm so glad you did this, and I was just so happy. I saw your post where you were like, Spider-Man Far From Home. Like, I knew that was your name in the credits. So thank you for replying to that message. Us toys have to stick together.
Absolutely.
Alex, I was so happy when she was like, so Alex also said he'll do the show too. I was like, yes, more the merrier. So Alex, thank you for also being on the show. Appreciate you. For everyone listening, please, if you have any questions for our friends, send it to us at United We Fan, and we'll shoot them their way. Maybe they can answer some more for you. Bryan, it looked like you had a lot of fun with this episode too.
I had an absolute blast. Thank you so much, both of you. Really, really appreciate it.
Yes. And I'm going to go back and watch. I mean, not like I need another excuse. I'm going to go watch Spider-Man Far From Home again, just so I can see Mandy's name and to see the wonderful work of Alex. So,
and the 50 or 60 other people that we want to make sure also get credit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Like they said, everyone, please start staying for the credits. If you go to shows and you stay for the bows and whatnot, the end of performances, it's the same thing. Stay and watch the names of the people who made the art that you enjoyed for 2 to 3.5 hours. So do it. But yeah, Mandy, Alex, appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes this episode. We thank you, fellow fans, for uniting with us. Thank you, Mandy and Alex, so much. We appreciate you all. For those listeners who want to get in touch with the show, please do so. Bryan, tell our listeners how they can message the show and stay up to date on everything UWF.
Stay tuned to United We Fan on Facebook and Instagram, United We Fan the podcast. On Instagram at United We Fan _podcast. Got some good things in the works when it comes to upcoming topics and just everything else that we're going to be doing here as United We Fan. So stay close to those.
Yeah, and even check out our Twitter account if you want breaking movie reviews, TV reviews, all kinds of reviews, thoughts from Bryan and I. Twitter account. I don't think Twitter needs bringing back, but we're making Twitter happen. So thank you again, and listen to us wherever you check out your podcasts. Till we unite again, fans, some wise words for you. I'm not much of a math and science guy. I spent most of my time in school daydreaming and managed to turn it into a living. These are the wise words of George Lucas.
Who? When in fact, they were simply acting as if they were riding horses. I still can't get my head around it, to be honest.